Ladies and gentlemen, I have the great honor to invite my good friend Rawle Iam James here to the interview at Poets of the East. You know, Poets of the East, the goal here was to learn a little bit more about these wonderful poets that we get a chance to hear in little snippets and to learn a little bit more about how they got to the wonderful place where they are, what were some of their influences, what they're reading right now. So these are some of the questions we're going to ask. So, Rawle, welcome. It's such a pleasure to have you, sir.
Thank you very much for having me, brother. And I always appreciate any time we get to spend together, and particularly when we can converse not just about life, but poetry and everything. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Well, it's a real special pleasure for me to interview you. I regard you as one of the most thoughtful people I know, and especially in the poetry community. And your judgment is so well reasoned. Your temperament is just so positive. It's just I'm not surprised when I learned that you do some counseling as well. You know, you're clearly a person who cares about their fellow men and women. And I'm not surprised at all that you've been able to help many people, I'm sure, in the time that you've done your counseling. So, under the heading of Poets of the East, let me ask you first, sir, when did you start writing? Serious writing in that sense of being a writer.
Yeah, I started writing poetry, I think it's what, 15 years ago, 16 years ago. I'm not a traditional poet in the sense of going to school for creative writing or any fine arts like that. I didn't write poetry as a kid, although I was creative as a kid. And when as a kid growing up in Brooklyn, as much as I love playing sports, I also love to sing. I used to love to draw. I was really good at drawing. And I thought that kind of went away. And then about 15 years ago, when I was living out in Western Canada and I was teaching at a private college, this blast of inspiration came as I was positioning an assignment to my students. You will write a poem about your life or an experience in your life. And, I'm standing there going, okay, where's this coming from? And I've never written a poem, but I went with it and I gave them the assignment. And I figured, well, if I'm going to give them an assignment, I'll write a poem as well. And the following week we came back together and we sat in our poems, and I was just blown away with the creativity of young people. And they were already creative because the school I was teaching at was a technology and a creative school. We taught things like graphic design and photography, filmmaking, a bunch of other creative endeavors. But I was just blown away, and they were blown away too with the creativity, because many of them had not written poem or even thought of poetry or even liked poetry. So that sparked me writing my first piece, and that sparked also a vehicle I called the Inspired Word Cafe. That was my first venture into doing open mics and really stepping into the poetry scene. So yeah, that's kind of how it came about for me. And then it just never stopped. The floodgates were open, and I kept writing and to where I am now. And yeah, so I'm fortunate that the mistress of poetry chose me to be a vehicle, to be a storyteller.
I'm sorry. I have to ask, as a person who is both a poet and a graphic arts practitioner, made part of my living that way. I have to ask, what was your favorite medium? Were you paints? Were you pencil? Were you ink? Or some amalgam of those?
Well, it's funny when I'm not a graphic artist myself. At this school, the things that I taught was actually around what I coach people with, around self-mastery, self-empowerment. And then also, because of my business background, I brought a sense of helping them to understand business and becoming business people. Because as an artist, a lot of artists really, they're just an artist and they're just doing it for the creativity. But yet they may make attempts to sell their creative endeavors. So if you're trying to sell anything, definitely in business. So just trying to help them from that standpoint. But when I dabbled, I definitely love drawing with pencil. I still have it in me to one day pick up a brush and see what I can paint, how I can dabble. Whether it be splashing paint on a canvas, like your background, just throwing it and see what comes. But and I guess too, from a technical standpoint, a computer standpoint, I'm not a graphic artist, but I definitely love creating, anything that around marketing or promoting. I love using my creativity to create, like even my own background of the Inspired Poetry Corner and other things. So, so from a physical standpoint, definitely, the brush and pencil. I don't draw like I used to, but I still love to, what I call doodling. And
Sure.
At times it does, I guess, look creative. So.
What were some of the authors who impressed you as a young man?
I was a young man. Um, Books as a young man, the things that I read were more history based. I love history, so I was always had my head in an encyclopedia or something like that. But as I got older, I definitely liked people like Carl Sagan, because I love anything to do with the universe and the cosmos. So, that was kind of along my genre. Also, really gotten into philosophers and people that wrote about philosophers. So, I love anything by Marcus Aurelius. His meditation, Seneca. So I kind of definitely, and Rumi is one of my favorites. So I like the old kind of Stoic masters, the old world wisdom. So books like that. I don't know if I remember any of it, but I still remember reading the Odyssey, the Odyssey. So anything along those lines, that kind of epic adventure has always caught my attention. So.
Yeah,
So Homer would be definitely one.
I came across the Iliad and the Odyssey myself very young, and it absolutely kindled a love of ancient history and ultimately anthropology. And I have a very funny little story I have to tell you. We were traveling out west. We'd gone to a meditation festival, my wife and I, with a group of friends. And on the way back, we were ferrying this VW van, perfectly decked out as the archetypal hippie van with feathers and beads and pictures of gurus and all that sort of stuff on the inside, right? And we picked up a hitchhiker, a young man, clearly what you might call a country boy. He's standing beside the side of the road in Arizona, 115 degrees out there. He's wearing a bib overalls, no t-shirt, just one side hooked on. And we invite him in, and he takes a look around the van, clearly just with no frame of reference. Whatever this was, it may as well have been Russian to him, right? And he said, "What kind of van is this?" And I thought, I could explain to him that we're into meditation and we were out for a meditation festival. I thought, this is not a man who wants a deep explanation. He wants a simple explanation. I said, "Well, we're magicians." He went, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." So I said, "Well, I'm Rick and this is Linda. What's your name?" And he said, No, you don't want to know my name." And I thought, well, that's the most peculiar reaction I've ever heard to a statement like that. So there's got to be a story there, right? And then I'm an inveterate story collector. So I said, "Well, what is your name?" He said, No, you don't want to know my name. I said, "Well, tell you what." And at this point, I took a flyer. I said to him, "I bet that if you tell me your name, I can tell you something completely amazing about your own name." And my wife looks at me like, "Are you crazy? I mean, we're in the middle of nowhere. There's some big hulking kid in the back, and you're telling him that you're going to blow his mind. What the hell, And he said, "Well, now this is, at this time, this is probably 76, okay?" He said, "Well, You have to know my name is Homer. What a dumb name. I said, Homer? My God, that's an amazing name. He said, no, no. And this is, of course, way before The Simpsons. Way, way, way before The Simpsons.
Yeah.
I said, let me ask you this. Have you ever heard the name Ulysses? He said, oh, now that's a cool name, man. Now I wish they'd call me Ulysses. I said, do you know why you know about the name Ulysses? He said, no, no idea. I guess it's in the Bible. I said, no, no, it's in a book older than the Bible. What?
Yeah.
How, what are you talking about? I said, well, there's a wonderful poet who lived long ago in ancient Greece, and he told this story about a famous battle. You've heard of Troy. Oh, yeah, Troy, yeah, Troy. I said, but he told it so well. This poet told such a good story that you know the name of his hero today. He goes,
Yes.
I don't understand. What are you talking about? I said, his name was Homer.
Oh.
He said, oh my God, why did no one ever tell me that? I said, well, you know now. Every once in a while, we can touch somebody's life and make a little change.
Yeah. Okay. That's a great story. I love that story. That's a great story.
So, Rawle, when did you start performing poetry? Because writing poetry is one thing, performing poetry, that's a different universe.
I started performing it like 15 years ago when I started the Inspired Word Cafe. Simple open mic concept, but you have to lead by example. So that's when I started, not writing and then performing it. Because that was the main reason I started the Inspired Word Cafe, and now today I have the Inspired Corner. I think it's one thing to write it and to read it off the page, but I hear the authors recite is a different experience than reading it. So that's since I created this vehicle, I used it as well to sharpen my tools. I mean, I never had a fear of presenting or standing before a crowd because I did a lot of that in my corporate days. So, but it was different because now you're sharing insights, you're sharing your creativity. So we're all human, so you always wonder, how will it be accepted or if it will be accepted. But yeah, about 15 years ago is when I took to the mic and read my first poem.
Now, was this at the college, or was this at a cafe or a coffee shop?
It started in the college, and that the recital. From the classroom, create a recital for the school to perform before the student body, the staff, the faculty. And that went really well. And I think I did 2 or 3 of those and realized very quickly it's time to take this into the village. So that was the birth of the Inspired Word Cafe. And yeah, so started it in the college, but then moved into the village, into town. So
if I asked you, everybody has their own take on this, but who do you regard as just very powerful, very effective poets? Who's in your pantheon?
I'm looking at one right now.
Ah.
No, I wasn't paid to say that, ladies and gentlemen. But no, I think you're one of them. People like we know. I mean, I've always been a fan of Shelley. I do love Shakespeare and Langston Hughes and Dickens. I don't know Dickens is a poet or a writer, but I love Dickens. Tale of Two Cities, one of my favorites of literature. But today, like yourself, people like Langton Carrier, Marianne Telf is a powerful poet. Leonard, what's Leonard's last name? I just lost it.
Blunt.
Oh, yes, thank you. Leonard I think is a brilliant poet. Neil Daswani, Kanto is a powerful voice, powerful poet. There's so many I could name. I mean, in this Zoom universe that came out of necessity from COVID, I've been introduced to so many amazing poets. So that of what we'll consider the giants or generation nations to come will consider the giants of poetry. When they look back, I think those are some of the names they could call upon. So David how to say his last name?
Go up. Go up.
Soros, yes, from Spoken Word Online. I think he's a powerful, powerful poet, brilliant poet. Yeah, so the poets that I get to see, although I don't participate in the Zooms as much as I used to, I think we have brilliant, brilliant people. Genevieve Ray is a powerful voice. Arnett Tarpley is another poet whose stuff I really enjoy. Henry L. Jones. I
A long
could
list.
go on and on. It's a long list because they're just whether you like their poetry in the sense of you agree with the topic or their sentiment, but the creativity. I've said this to you. You and I, we also talk every so often offline or talk on have our own one-on-one. We don't always agree. Some of your poems, the political ones, I don't agree with the premise, but the creativity and the humor that you use, it just is like, wow, it blows my mind, right?
Thank you, sir.
So so the poets that I get to see and kind of touch every day are the ones that truly, they stay in my head and inspire me.
Okay, next
I think,
question.
well, one more name. I think you might have interviewed or not just recently, Marissa Prada, right?
Yes.
I think she's a powerful, powerful force of nature. Elemental is another one. So yeah, anyway, I could go on and go on.
Okay. All right. Now, this is a tactical question. Now, some poets are determined to practice their craft daily or weekly. They, want to write every day, whether inspiration visits or not. Other poets have a different take, and they say, well, I don't want to force it. I want to wait until inspiration comes. Now, in that continuum from you got to write every day to only when inspiration happens, where do you fall in those categories?
I'm probably more towards, for me, I don't have to write every day because I don't write every day. Actually, it's not true. I write every day. I write my thoughts every day. Poetry, a lot of the poems that I've written come from those thoughts. I kind of capture them in my, I still traditionally like to use pen and paper to capture my thoughts. And the ones that I feel sort of an inclination to, I then transfer them into a document in my, and what I call to work. When they sit there, and then when I feel that itch, there's an itch that I feel there's a poem stirring. I usually go into that document and I find I find that where the itch is, and then I'll write, then I'll work on it. And
okay.
That process could be an hour or it could be a few days, because sometimes I'll write, I know I've got something good, but I'm not sure if it's finished, so I'll kind of let it sit there and kind of let it marinate a bit, and then go back and attack it. So yeah.
Okay, next.
But yeah, I'm more on the don't have to write every day.
I used, in my wild youth, I made a virtue of writing anywhere. I wrote on scraps of paper. I'd write on pieces of cardboard. I wrote willy-nilly anywhere. After a while, I got tired of sorting through these stacks of random pieces of paper. I said, you know what? Let's do notebooks. So I started in the 70s doing notebooks, and I had notebooks until probably the late 90s. But nowadays, I primarily write on the computer. The thing I liked about freehand and then translating into digital media is that it gives you a really good excuse to tweak, to do that extra bit of polish on there. Right. So I completely appreciate what you're saying. Next, are there themes or topics that you find yourself returning to?
I think the common theme throughout a lot of my stuff is, what we're called spiritual in nature, universal. When I write, I tend to try to write, and whatever I'm positioning, I try to balance kind of approach and look to things. So, a lot of I write is invitation to excel, you know, the life not examined is the life living. Well, I used to vibe with that saying that Socrates came up with, but I've realized that even the unexamined life is still a life worth living. But the invitation is to be more conscious of understanding yourself and your life. And so my writing tends to be along that invitation, as an invitation for you to look within before looking out, and understanding yourself beyond the meat suits that we walk around in, and understanding just how powerful and how precious and how loved you are, even when you don't feel that way, because it already exists inside of you. So I would say my writing tends to fall more, I guess, considered the spiritual tip of the iceberg.
Okay. Now, you've been participating for a while now in these international Zoom readings.
Mm-hmm.
Has anything about them surprised you?
That they existed, first of all. I wouldn't say surprising. I just, it's not surprise. I'm just in awe of it. The fact that through technology, that we could be brought together from all corners of the globe. And I mean, we're exposed to poets from all around the globe. And that I find amazing, that we can come together and share our poetry and talk and get to know each other, and friendships have been built out of it. So to me, that's the advantage of the age that we're living in, that through technology, and that's one of the things that COVID highlighted, that through technology, we were able to use technology to stay connected, even when we were back in the caves, and we were told that we had to be back in the caves. And that, I think that definitely kept a lot of people sane. But it also opened doors, because the poetry door was open even wider and to a greater audience, and not just those that participate in reciting, but those that may just even show up to listen, because there's a number of people that just show up just to listen to poetry. You don't have to go to a coffee shop anymore, or go to a library to take in a show or anything. You can, through the comforts of your home and through Zoom or whatever other vehicle is being used, you can be exposed to that kind of poetry, and from a global standpoint. So yeah, that I found amazing, definitely.
Okay. Do you feel that poets or writers have a special responsibility? Now, that may be any number of things, whether it be teaching or lecturing or presenting or addressing issues. Do you think that a poet or an author has responsibilities that come from that gift of being able to articulate issues?
I think the true responsibility lies with yourself to use that gift, that blessing that you have. Whether you choose to write about, the trials and tribulations of your personal life, or whether you choose to use it to address social issues and just life itself. I think, the responsibility lies on, you using that gift. I was telling my Christian friends, God is not giving me stuff in life to show up how God is. God is trying to show me, do you remember just how full I made you? And with the gifts that you've been blessed with, whether you use it or not, that's up to you. And I think as a poet, if you realize that you are a storyteller, whether you're a poet or you're a writer of novels or whatever, I think it's upon you to be responsible to yourself to actually use that gift. Now, how you use it is up to you. I myself personally think, as poets, especially today, going back to the last question in regards to, technology, giving us these platforms, I think now poets need to be considered part of media, because, social media and even traditional media, we now have a platform individually and collectively to be a voice of reason, to be able to provide insight into, troubling issues, in a creative, sometimes, and that's why I enjoyed the way you do it, humorous way, to get us to look at things differently. it's like going back to the old traditions of comedy. Yeah, comedy is can be very offensive, but comedy is offensive for a purpose because it tries to get you to look at the absurdity of things in a different way. And I think those types of vehicles are extremely important, right? That's why, to me, poetry, you know, poets are never going to rev people up the way music does, right? It's more intimate than that. You know, I won't say never, but it's highly unlikely you'll see a poet selling out a 50,000 arena stadium.
Not yet, anyway.
Not yet, anyway. But I don't know if even if I'd want to attend that, I'll go just to see what it's like. But I think poetry is a little bit more intimate than that. It's a little bit more localized in that regard, and that's its power. And then it ripples out from the people it touches. Music and stuff like that brings us together, and we have these great events, and we enjoy for the moment, but then it subsides until the next one. I think poetry has a more longer lingering effect, or the potential is there. So I think as poets, we do have a responsibility, not just to ourselves, but to the collective. So
Thanks. Okay, if a young person came up to you and said, I do some writing, but I don't know. It seems like a pointless thing. Why bother? Is poetry worth bothering about? What would you say to them?
Yeah, poetry is definitely worth bothering. Number one, I would say just keep writing. Write as much as you can, based on understanding your own creative process. And then the second thing I would say to them is step out of your comfort zone and go find an open mic and recite. Because from my experience of being an organizer for years, I can count countless memories of people showing up to my show scared, wanting to recite, but not signing up. And they'll sit in the show, and almost every show I always had someone goes, is there still room to recite? Because they were just sitting there, and that they got moved and saw what others were doing, and it inspired them. So I think if any young person is listening to this, I'll say, yeah, definitely write, but then find the courage to go to an open mic and share, whether it's a physical open mic or the Zoom rooms that are open. Find the courage to share, because it will open you up in a way that maybe you haven't even thought of. Right? And it will definitely have a positive effect on your overall look on life, but also your creativity in regards to how you approach whatever art you're using, whether it's, like I said, whether you're writing short stories or novels or poetry itself. So
now let me ask you this. As a writer, do you think that narrative is important?
Yeah, I do. I think it's important to write that way, to set the stage, to be able to communicate the idea from almost outside of yourself, right? So I think it's extremely important. I think it's something that we all, consciously do. Maybe a lot of us do it unconsciously. It's something that should be a conscious component, because a true storyteller knows how to set a narrative.
Absolutely.
Right? And they know how to set the stage. And I think that's really what we're doing. Well, I'm setting the stage with my poetry, not for you to necessarily understand why I wrote a piece, but understanding that the piece itself is an invitation for you to look within, or to look at things in a different way. And that's a powerful narrative. If you can get people to look at things differently outside of their own perspective, that's a powerful thing that we should not take for granted.
Okay, coming down the home stretch, these last two questions. Question penultimate. What reading is on your desk right now?
Right now I have, believe it or not, it's not on my desk, but it was The Way of the Superior Man and the author just went out of my head. Oh, geez. I'm also right now reading again the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius.
Good
Um,
stuff.
yeah,
Good
it's a
stuff.
constant thing, and I'm actually rereading the Bible. Right, I am not a religious man, but I do believe there's great stories in the Bible. There's great teachings in the Bible. I am, yeah, 'cause I'm not I don't do religion, but I do have a belief in my higher power. So,
Sure.
so those are the things that are currently one on my desk and the other two on my online desk, I guess. So,
Okay. All right. So let me ask you, sir. This is my favorite part. I'm going to ask you to do some reading, but one last question, and this is, what's your next goal as a writer, philosopher, counselor?
well, what's my next goal? My next goal really is to focus a little bit more on the Inspired Poetry Corner, the group, to try to understand from within the membership, you know, how I can provide greater value and support to the poets in the group, uh, and then also to offer, you know, my coaching abilities to people. I want to, well, not want to. I just put it out the other day to offer to do you know, self mastery type workshops. Um, I want to offer the business of art in regards to helping poets to understand the importance of business, and them becoming, you know, business people in regards to understanding that if you are looking to position your art in exchange for monies, then there's a process. It's an understanding of the importance of business. Don't get sucked down the rabbit hole of the greed that you see in business itself, because a lot of artists and a lot of young ones don't value capitalism because of what they see today, and like, you can't blame them because it feels like it's gone amok. Having said that, it's still a valuable system, and it can only go amok if you choose to let it, or you choose to buy into the out of balance we are with greed in regards to our practices. So I think there's still a value to it until we come up with a better system. It's still a value to it, and so as how you use it, and a lot of that depends on who you are on the inside, right? You know, we always like to blame the tools as the problem. You know, we want to blame technology, you know, these phones for the problem. They're not. They're just a tool. It's how you choose to use it. So whatever you hold inside, or how you value yourself inside, is what's going to come out. So you know, that's the goal that I'm really working on, how to continue to provide value to, I don't know, the greater good, the village, the best
Wonderful.
that I know, the best that I
Okay,
know.
now the fun part. My friend, my brother, why wouldn't you, will you read us a few of your fine, fine pieces, sir?
Oh, thank you, thank you. I will definitely share. And again, I'm grateful to you for this platform, for, you know, Poets of the East, and, you know, providing to me, these are really, you know, special things when people like, you know, yourself take of your time, because no one's paying us to do any of this, but to be able to
Nope.
spotlight poets. So, you know, I'm grateful. I'm on the other side of the table now, and so I'm grateful. So,
You've done
uh,
plenty of interviews yourself, right, brother?
yeah, yeah. And there's more to come. And there's more to come, just like what you're doing. So I'll start off with a poem. I can't remember when I wrote this. I think I wrote it sometime this year, but it's called A Gentle Whisper. A gentle whisper escapes from my soul, spotlighting my journey into this divine time. I'm a guided thought, tumultuous skies, as a ray of positivity on the horizon. At times, it feels like I'm in a constant pursuit, in a hunger for the holy grail of connection. Footprints I create on the sands of duality, to be questioned, forever reflecting answers. Life's mysteries unravel to set wisdom free in every breath, in the rhythm of my choice. I am a ripple that ventures into a sea of hope, for I need nothing that does not exist within. I am the joy within the laughter, the tears after the fall, the silence within the wind, listening so I can hear. I am a prayer that guides life from within, the ethos of my soul in every breath. End of piece. Thank you, my
Very
friend.
nice.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Should I just continue on?
Please, yeah. And by the way, let me mention,
Mm-hmm.
so many times we're constrained by a 3 minute or 4 minute or 5 minute constraint. Sir, read the long ones that you want to read but haven't had a chance. Feel free to stretch out. Okay, you got a half an hour.
Read. I have a few pulled up, but having said that,
Whatever you'd like.
pull up a poem that I can't remember the last time I actually read it. But while my drive decides what to pull up, I'll read another one. This one is called Hope Appears. It's a shorter poem, but I find my writing has changed a lot from early on. When I was in my early writing of poetry, there were longer poems, but as I've gotten older, they've definitely become more concise. So Hope Appears. Adventure awaits in the exhale as dawn's beauty snuggles in. Spirit arrested in concert, raw in praise of gratitude. Eyes blinded in the silence to explore the razor's edge. Whispers of hope rain upon into a rainbow of memories. In the fires of metaphors, life's poetry forged by imagination. As feelings dissipate in the void to go beyond the inner limits. End of piece. I think these are all pieces that I wrote sometime this year. I don't date my poetry, so I have no idea when I wrote it. I guess I'll have to go into my drive to see when, but anyway.
Read on,
This
my
next
friend. It's all beautiful work.
this next piece is called Out of the Ethers. Overhead, I drift in silence. In a patriarch of billowing clouds, my inspiration is no longer hidden. It's released as a whisper of tomorrow from the light of the sage within. The hands of alchemy conjure spells of wonderment. Folklore casts metaphors of chaos, transcribes intent upon my soul, and holds back to see an expression of time. Naked in all moments, in the hands of time, no longer a prisoner, I am the desire of unspoken dreams, the golden memories of life's myths, as I embrace the creativity that surrounds in this symphony of light and dark. End of piece. This one, I don't even know if I've even read this or published this. I probably should do that this week. Called I Just Do It for the Poetry. I live for the poetry. The unknown inspires every breath. As I wander the land of chaos, my hope clings to the metaphors of life. Arising from the ashes of suffering, my pen at the ready to tame, spotlighting the ignorance of my knowledge for all that is but the tip of an iceberg. I'm a vessel that transports the imagination into a symphony mightier than the sword. Under a pale moon, the page featured as words spew impatiently without regret. into a garden of lingering stories. Each verse is like a fire that purifies the ink, sprouting roots in the subdued soil of pain as the fruit bore casts spells of attention. I am from the ethers, a storyteller at heart, answering the call ascribed to the lexicon, a warrior poet, sword and pen in hand. I just do it for the poetry. End of piece. This
Lovely.
piece, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, your way with words is so eloquent, and to me, the language used, the sentiments expressed, it speaks so much to where your heart is, where your head is, your education, your philosophy. Sir, I've said it before, you write beautifully and you think elegantly. Keep up the good work, man. That's good stuff. Good stuff.
Thank you, my friend. That means a lot coming from you because I think I've said this to you before. I still struggle with the title of being a writer or even being a poet. But I do accept the praise, the kind words with gratitude and humbled by it. I just write the way I think and the way I speak. Like I said, I'm not a trained person. I didn't go to university, but my university was life, and I like to think of this my 64th rotation around this sun. I've been paying attention, and I've gotten to a good place with life itself. So, this is an old piece. I wrote this. This piece is probably close to 14 years old. It's called The Stirring. I was there at the beginning when there was only a hint of something, and first thought drove atoms to collide, spewing the destructive forces that forms universes. I was there to guide the emptiness into substance as I wiped away the sleep from mother's eyes. She exhaled movement into life upon the land. I was there as we crawled to a new dawn, as gills and fins were shredded and morphed into limbs that carried the burden of existence shared by both beast and fowl alike. I was there at first walk as we dodged fireballs, sidestepped gushes of steam to that turbulent first step on terra firma. And as grunts migrated to sounds of vowels and consonants, I was there as we embraced the sound that laid the foundation for words that spoke like never before, a mode of communication that was as strange as the night sky with billions of fireflies that pinholed a blanket of black. I was there at first harvest, when reaping what was sown was a matter of running a hand over the top of the bounty of grain that stretched as far as the eyes could see and as much as the stomach could ingest. I was there at first hunt to embrace the kill, in giving thanks for feeding the hunter, the innate will that propels the construct of the human experience to kill from the destructive of self-preservation. I was there at the evolutionary steps that hinted visions of things to come, forgotten and lost from epic memory, time, like the lamb that wandered too far from the flock, confronted by the shadows of fear that brightened the illusion of danger. I was there at first sight, to appear as a longing, a sense of familiarity that reassured and represented a conduit of times gone by. I was there at the proverbial crossroads that prompted doubt and fueled a mindset to support the enormity of the chasm of deep-rooted fears that could not be conquest. I was there as a newborn, sitting idly blind, deaf, and dumb to the worthiness of a dream that illuminated a path to the one consciousness, a new light of spiritual awakening, requiring authentic thought within each individual as it was embedded into our human experience. I am here, a form of truth as the first solution once did. The mind's eye sees the kinetic fiber that stores the power of nothing. I am here forging the difference between a song stuck in the sweet groove of insanity and the molecules that vibrate violently, creating the bang of life. I am here as we ride the cosmic wave of greed and indifference amidst the mass of chaos in technology. I will be there as we move forward to that quantum leap into a new phoenix that crashes, spawns a new inhabitant forged from the blood, sweat, and dreams of a new thought, a cataclysmic explosion of tranquility that ignites, ascends the enlightened thinking. I will be there in the energetic threshold that is life itself, like the original amino acids from the cosmic mulch that seeped into a collaboration, bringing forth the existence on this cosmic way, trafficking the destination of atoms, shifting paradigms into a universal synchronicity of destructive creation. I was there. I am here. I am here. End of piece.
Bravo, sir. Bravo.
Thank you. I have not read that in a minute. So it felt good to read that. It's been a while.
It's a
All
beautiful
right.
piece.
Thank you. This next piece is called A Feather in Love's Opus. Along the ocean's edge, all are wild in the wind. A feather in love's opus, in songful bliss of float. Life's focus fades in and out, still in the absence of time. Shadows play by design, magically in the clouds. Hope takes flight without wings, to gaze back without regret. Unfolding in an orange amber sky, awaiting the coming night's rain. The daylight slowly retreats into the moon's loving embrace. Atop the mountain, all is seen, the beginning and the end. End of piece.
Beautiful.
And I will, sorry, go ahead, yeah.
No, I was just saying, beautiful.
Thank you, my brother, thank you. This next piece I called Under a Jealous Sky. I've discovered a symphony in nature's hue, a sight to behold in this fleeting moment. Life at times struggles under a jealous sky. Looking across the vast horizon of emotion, my intention is bankrupt, shattering ethical roles as I witness the phoenix ascend from the fiery pits. Love's hope attempts to fly with broken wings past the expiry date in the explosion of turbulence. Loneliness rebels against its desire for connection. My mind seeks solace in the reprieve of shadows, trapped in the conflict of yesterday's shame, as the story of tomorrow's promise is beyond my grasp. My blood is the sacrifice and payment to the storyteller. I exist in a space of precious fragility, time unknown. Discipline arrange my broken pieces at freedom's door. At the center of it all, I hover in sweet thoughts of Gaia. In a meadow of purple and yellow, I find peace and serenity. In the silence of expectation, I live to see another sunset. End of piece.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Read on, my brother, read on.
Let's see, what do I have next? This is a short piece called A Kiss of Morning Dew. Very short. Out of the morn silence, your essence snuggles in me. Like a kiss of morning dew. I'm holding my breath, if just for a moment longer, to soothe in their euphoria of you. I am an exhaling, I am an exhale powering the wind beneath the rising phoenix into my salvation in redemption. End of piece. And let me just find it. So bear with me 1 second. I want to recite, I think you've heard this piece, my piece called Rainbow Culture. This is an old piece as well. I was actually commissioned by the city of Kelowna to write this piece for an event called Culture Days here in Canada at the end of, actually coming up at the end of this month, running into to mid-October. We have Culture Days that is celebrated across the whole country, where communities put on various cultural events, you know, to celebrate culture and to invite people to build stronger communities. So this is a piece I call Rainbow Culture. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Is this thing on? Are you listening? It is my hope these words paint you a picture to inspire a melody in your mind as your heart beats to the tribal flow. I invite you to listen closely. The diversity of our humanity can be found in our galleries, museums, libraries, science centers, halls of learning. Since you are listening, let me pose the following. What is culture, and how does it define us? Are you still with me? Is it the art that hangs on walls, the songs we sing, the beating of drums that stir our ancestral energies? Or is it the tribal dance of generations past? Is it all that we have done, all that is to come? Is life culture, and does it define us? Now that I have your attention, our flow that vibes is culture. Imagination constructs a creative life. It forms our highest civility. We are people of color, black, red, white, yellow, brown. We display our art with pride. It's our earthly soul joyfully speaking, a rainbow of cultures blended as one. Culture is an expressive, creative, imaginative perspective of life. We are a tapestry of dance, song, music, art, words. The human rainbow arcing from heart to heart. Our collective inner voices are woven together. It is an expression of our humanity. Still with me? Culture is family, the root of our society. From painting on cave walls to banging of bones after the hunt, we crave the outlet that fuels our creativity. It fires the imagination. It is a portal into our collective soul. It gives us license to express, protest, revolt, change, and accept who we are. Our internal art is our culture, the rainbow dance of connection. Culture is a window to look back and vision forward. The door that peers through our evolutionary growth is reflected in all that we are. It is the dance of mind and body, the air we breathe into song, the thoughts that pen poetry. Culture is our hope, our aspiration. It speaks to the power of our spirit. Before I depart and I say thank you for listening, know this. The collective creative energies that shapes our reality, our collective expression of life's dance. When we witness the inner art that defines our culture, we move closer to mindful acceptance of ourselves. Culture is the sunrise and the moonlight of our inner art. We sing the same songs with different voices. We dance the same dance to different rhythms. We write the same words spoken in different tongues. We brush the same strokes that blossom in different colors. Culture shows the soul of our community, our home. It's how we define our uniqueness as one humanity, one art. We are a rainbow of cultures. Thank you. End of piece. Let's see. This next piece is called, excuse me, Out of Eden. I don't know, I wrote this probably about 3 months ago, I think. Are we the fallen angels, cursed by our exodus from grace, lost in the wilderness of separation? For out of Eden, we suffered forward to fashion gods in our likeness as we seek answers to life's mysteries. A shroud of lies pulled over eyes as evil lurks in the ignorant mind, draped by a cloak of pious beliefs while truth hides in plain sight. Up is now down in this fool's utopia as the temple stands on fragile ground. From birth to the dust of ashes, the word scrutinized by veiled eyes. Myths of the time fuel our devotion as the flock engage in casting stones into the glass house of good intentions while the many seek nirvana in the sky. The blind continues to lead the blind into the indifference of uncertainty. On bended knees before our creations, we pray to become saints of revelation as we shine mercy's light of hope. So as above, so within, as within, so below. End of piece.
Well, sir, I can't ask you to do all this lovely reading without offering to share a piece or two with you.
Well, you know how I feel about that.
So, and since I regard you as a philosophical brother of mine, I want to share two little philosophical pieces that I think you'll find amusing. So this first one's called My Favorite Philosopher. My favorite philosopher, Lao Tzu. You might be thinking, Lao who? The simplicity of his thinking appeals to me. He requires very little belief, as well you might see. The local tribe in the place where I was born prefers a religion by and large that I came to spurn. It's not that it's foolish, it's not that it's dumb. Despite how long practice, it seems they don't understand how precisely it's done. He references water, finds wisdom there, yet his worshippers find no necessity to bind him to a chair. The knowledge you need you will find within. It's nothing at all about worshiping him. Letting go with Lao Tzu is an important theme. All this maintaining of formalities and imposing of schemes often does little more for most of us than stifling our dreams. One of his favorite stories he explains very well. It's the dream of the butterfly you'll hear is proposed in this spell. He dreams he's a butterfly, awake he's a man. But in the end, which is realer? On which foot does he stand? Each moment of perception has something to tell. To contend one is realer seems pointless as well. Here's an example of his sort of teaching. You'll see in an instant the goal that he's reaching. If you want to become whole, let yourself be partial. If you want to become straight, let yourself be crooked. If you want to become full, let yourself be empty. If you want to be reborn, let yourself die. If you want to be given everything, give everything. This sort of elegant thinking, it seems, pulls most expectations apart at the seams. The examples he's left us in fable and guide, all that pretentious striving can be left by the side. Simplicity, silence, listening within. You're always in church. Divinity, simplicity, with no banners to spin. Another example of his wisdom sheds so much light. I urge you to give a listen. You might get it right. Kindness in words creates confidence. Kindness in thinking creates profoundness. Kindness in giving creates love. I've read many translations of books of wisdom. There's very much goodness I have found within them. But the simple train of Lao Tzu's thinking gives me guidance and simple wisdom for living. I first saw the word Zen as a very young child. My Uncle Gene had several books of it. Several books of it. Okay. I first saw the word Zen as a little child. My gentle Uncle Gene had several books of it. He was gentle and mild. A man of the world, a ham operator, globally connected, it was to him gold. And although I've read widely in religion over the years of inclusivity have brought me to this decision. I've read from the Bible, the Koran and such. I've read from the Ramayana, the Upanishads much. I've read from the Egyptian and Tibetan books of the dead. I've learned so much wisdom, and ultimately it shines much light on you might find both the celestial and the divine. In the simplicity of Zen, I sense much refined. Take any road, I urge you, my chum. With elaborate ritual in silence you'll come. To the simplest truths you'll find when you come. You'll find me, my friend, here and now, in the flowing clear river of Zen. The wise man is one who knows what he does not know. All streams flow to the sea because it is lower than they are. Humility gives it its power. So that's my favorite philosopher. And then this other one, I think, again, I hope you enjoy this one too. This is called Who Can Do It? And I must admit, there's a little humor sprinkled in this one too. What must be done? He knows the slant, that amazing fellow Immanuel Kant. He'd doubt it for sure. And without any data, he'd never construe it as not how it's done. He just wouldn't do it. Not that man, not that one. Who could do it? Immanuel can't. He can't understand it. I know that he can't. All he'll do is go to the tavern and Ren. Who couldn't do it? Well, Immanuel can't. Sure, he's enlightened. We know about that. Foremost in enlightenment, Immanuel Kant, a German genius from Kaliningrad, sent that very studious fellow Immanuel Kant. Epistemology, sure, you know about that. The College of Knowledge of old Immanuel Kant. The reciprocity thesis he contends makes of us lovers, enemies, or friends. Reciprocity provides us either a floor. We have morality walking through freedom's door. Whether we choose to act morally or simply relax provides us the knowledge we know morality's facts. Whether we choose to act in morality's logic, either way we walk, we'll carry freedom in our pocket. In his 3 critiques, he synthesizes much of what is mankind's hypothesis. In each critique, he analyzes just what it is that humanity hypnotizes, and how many factors we must select if we're going to reach good judgment without breaking our necks. His first book anticipated the structure of knowledge, his inspiration, the professor he met at his college. And though initially, circumspiciously, he was called to the cloth, his energy, enthusiasm for study led to mathematics and philosophy. No great loss. He was no dolt, it seems. He was destined for serious work, not analyzing dreams. Would he argue religion and waste time like that? Some certainly would do it, but Immanuel can't. His essay delineated the substance and nature of fire, a far cry from his father's saddlery empire. Immanuel lectured at university, but schooled the children of his betters, but by dint of intelligence, he proved himself a man of letters. With speculation, envisioned the assembly of facts. Without it, mere speculation, he left that to the hacks. Intellectual integrity required rigorous collection of data, otherwise as useless as a rusty, sunken freighter. Despite his failure to obtain a professorship at Königsberg, he opted to pass up a poetry professorship and the prestige that would be a careerist's dream, the upward road. Would he? Could he? No. Immanuel can't. He preferred to stay right where he stood. Some might go, but he never would. Some might leave and through travels grant. Some might do it, but Immanuel can't.
I love it. I don't think I've heard that.
Yeah, it's one of my recent favorites. And the phrase came to me in the middle of the night. It was one of those, I got to write it down real quick.
Well, that's another philosopher to really understand and to learn. And I love the way you used his name.
Thank you.
You know,
thank you so much.
To being able to be humble, knowing as much knowledge as I have, I still only know this much. Right.
Well,
And then,
that, my friend, is the proof of your wisdom.
yeah, and
You
the
know,
truth,
and the best philosophers always say that. They said, the wise man is one who knows how much he doesn't yet know.
yeah. And this is
Well,
why, this is why I love what you do with this, and it's another way to get to get to know us poets. It's the same thing I do with my show, The Inspired Poetry Corner. Interviewing poets just to give us all a chance to understand them differently.
please read another,
And
sir.
then maybe yeah, I'd love to just end with one because I love that piece that you just did. And that's why I said I love the way you use humor, excuse me, to get us to look at things differently. Because I think when you make people laugh, just like when you make them think, if you can get them to think and get them to laugh, they stand a chance of wanting to understand their own discomfort by listening to others and seeing themselves in other people, And when we do that, we start to realize we're really not that different. We like to be told, and we're told many times how different we are. We're really not different. We just practice differently, right? I love that. I have to actually go back and now refresh my knowledge on Mr. Kant because I do like his. I do like the way he thinks. So, anyway, I'm gonna end. This session with you with this piece because I wrote this piece a little while ago. It's called The Examination of This Privileged Life. Time, examine time. For tomorrow matters only if today exists. And yesterday by design is left behind. With no remorse, time waits for no one in this continuum in the void of space. Out of the valley of green pastures, I ascend to the summit of memories, to pause for a moment, to take stock as I take to heart Socrates' words, the examination of this privileged life. From the light, my shadows shy away as I rise in judgment of my worthiness. What has served? What have I learned in this broken-hearted walk with suffering, free in the truth of my joys and sorrows? For all that I know is not all to know. I am a character in this repetitive dream, an illusion of will in the pursuit of truth. I am a lost sheep at the tip of my iceberg, found in the complexity that lies within. At this stage, time dances with my death. Gravity anchors my footsteps mindful, open to the ignorance of my knowledge, in the unknowing of this unfolding journey, wisdom in the round of my soul's content. End of piece.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much, my brother, for sharing a few moments of your time. We really appreciate it. It's an honor to have a man of your wisdom with us. Thank you so much, and may you have a wonderful day, sir.
Yeah, thank you, my brother. I just want to say thank you. And, going back to the early part of our conversation, because of Zoom and poetry, it brought you into my life, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to know someone as like you, someone as well learned, someone as well read, someone that is a brilliant writer, a philosopher. All the things you say about me, my brother, is what I say about you, and this is one of the reasons I love you. And I love the fact that we can talk and converse and just be ourselves and respect each other as men, as human beings. So continue.
My honor, sir, and pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for this.
Namaste, brother. Namaste.